and responsibility for the transformation that took place. I think it is totally unfair. And when the president decided that he did not need any other parties, anybody else, that MDP could proceed unilaterally by itself, from that day onwards, it undermined its own legitimacy and its own power base. And therefore, the events progressed, and what happened finally is the culmination of a long process of political conflict and undermining of people's will. So I think it is unfair for anyone to accuse me of joining the opposition. I will continue this government in the spirit of a coalition, in the spirit of working with other political parties and partners in the country. And together, I am confident that we will be able to build a stable, democratic country that respects individual freedoms and foremost respects and upholds a constitution that guarantees the Bill of Rights for our people.
Mr. President, I want to stand on Muhammad Hassan. I want to this one. First one ki me Alumina Malmadi for MDP parliamentary group member on Adi Kuriya Sarkar is very Rajya Vera Furum Mudeve Gotan Befuna Anga Febaka. Ekawani Raiso Jumuri, Kuriya Rais Muhammad Rashid, Bear Fura and Noah, Bear for the bottom, Ebefla, Ebes for hang a beto, Adi MDP Mihal with the Kawaki, Bis Hagi to the Bahaki to Ebefla Sarkar is very now parliament member on a bear and Kuriya Anga for Nanto.
Rega Baktega. Algona malumat libunu me travel ban list kureva. Algonu hama yagin kong tibefuna arwa misarka algonu misarkara hawali fahakune about the list issue enu kureva. Issue ekam me list ekama vanama e list ki ei kuri tibe befon hadwa fe list. Algona dega Vara izzetleri befrum sarkaruge musataruge iskoti be by befrum golwa bidali mikala wahakin ahafin etman hisabun algonda mika igodi algon miharo anga fonnani about the list ekma bana me tambra na tas algon redes befrum pravdatmaka purahe alaka beyan menoi algon kurin denne algon ge emme muhimmu kande emme iskande kamaki kanuna awada egota kanta kurangene shari ebbes kamaka algondu purahe besnala ehli ma ebbes befrege masale court oigen court ge amre ekam oigen pravada ngenema pravada ngenema e algondu ekamaka behene kamen
ekmana kiras me sida kama beru bechina ma mihat pravada ino anto
raisa shit pravada no ka ebbes purahe ne yahar algona egigenen adiyenen ekal ebbes sure den rais nashidas garuna khilafa kame purwa oigen ekama behe gotin ebbes kame ekama banya e algon ekam terege himene kamen
algon deran swala ki algon deran swala ki kuri sarkar rais nashid sarkar barakina cooperation tan hada ane me health cooperation taka adi heni cooperation taka is activist to labba be become kurung genda ne manfan sarkar ekan etanta civil service padavu kuraba adi nangalu hingunte very lumat manfan mase kurban to
ad em algun kuri danwa fonnan em kuri kuri program teke algun men review kurana me review kofa begotum tidal hen ganuna gawada kamen ekama ganna ekama algun men nangalu kuran lat kuri dia de algun men tidal ham cooperation the best algun review kuran.
Mr. President, Amar Jayasinghal from France Press. I just want to clarify with you about the travel restrictions that have been imposed. There's a talk about a list of people who are on a list of those who are not allowed to leave the country. Does it apply to all MDP people, or is it only those officials or close relatives of the Nasheed administration? Could you clarify on that?
Only last night I came to hear about a list of people who are on a travel ban. I was shocked by it. I can assure you that since I became president, there has not been a list made. No list had been issued. When I heard about this, I got a call from one of my most respected heads of public institutions here. So I inquired about it. And I was told that such a list was there. If it's there, then I haven't seen it, but if it's there, it must have been drawn up by the previous administration.
So are you saying that, are you removing that thing, or are you
Yes,
saying that?
absolutely, we will remove that.
You will remove it?
Yes, I have asked that if there is something to be removed.
So in that
as far
case,
as I know, there is no restriction on
Mr.
anybody.
President, in that case, if former President Nasheed wants to leave the country now, is he free to do that?
He is free to leave as far as I know. As I said, if there are any things that's happening in the judiciary, if there's any court order for him to stay, then I'm not aware of it yet. If it's there, then that's their business. I guarantee you, I will not interfere with the proceedings of the judiciary.
Mr. President,
And I will also want to ensure that I don't interfere with law enforcement with the work of the police.
Mr. President, you said that the former president violated the constitution, rule of law, but is it part of the constitution of Maldives that a section of the police can force a president to announce his resignation at gunpoint? Is that not violating the rule of law?
I don't know where you got this information from. My understanding is that he or somebody below him, could be the Minister of Home Affairs, ordered the police to act against the Constitution and the law. This was my understanding. And the police as an institution refused. And they have a right to refuse. It is stated in our Constitution that nobody should order anyone to do something that is illegal against the Constitution or the law. It's also said in our Constitution that no law enforcement agency is required to obey such laws. I believe that the police acted totally and fully constitutionally. So when they refuse to obey President, I think the President himself must ask why.
But if they get involved in acting against other institutions of the government like the NDF, what about those officers? That do not presumably go into the Constitution, would it?
Please, yeah, I couldn't hear.
I'm sorry, I'm Bryson Hull from Moody's. Mr. President, if the police actually mutinied against the government and started taking action against it, as was reported and seen here yesterday, would that be under the Constitution as well? And there is information that the military marched the president into his office and he was resigned under pressure. That's according to eyewitnesses. Is that constitutional as well?
You should see events of yesterday morning in a continuum of what happened the night before and before that. If you followed what happened the night before yesterday morning, you will see that peaceful demonstrators have been protesting for the last almost 3 weeks, and then the police were trying to protect them against some government sympathizers who were trying to disrupt the protests. And at that point, orders came against the law to create a vacuum there, to remove the police and to allow confrontation. This was all totally unconstitutional. And the police were forced to move from there. So you have to see how the events progress, and then make your judgment as to whether something was constitutional or unconstitutional. It is not for me to decide. And the president resigned, and I came in when the Speaker of the Parliament invited me to come in, and as I said, what happened is not something, as a nation, we are not proud of the kinds of things that have happened in the last few weeks. I want to assure all of you, all of our partners, that we will respect the rule of law, we will uphold the Constitution, the executive will not interfere in the legislature, and we will make sure that democracy is consolidated. And that's why it is so important for me to bring all the partners together, political parties together, and form a government of national unity. I want to ensure that the rule of law is upheld, that we move towards 2013 and guarantee a free and fair election according to the Constitution.
Sir, Andrew North from BBC News. You seem very calm. You seem to have everything worked out. It's hard not to believe that there was a plan here. So if this is not a coup, what is it?
There was no plan. I was not prepared at all. I was not prepared at all, especially because President Nasheed did not confide in me on many things. The Vice President is supposed to take over if something happens to the President. He's supposed to be fully prepared all the time. I must admit, I was not fully prepared. As a result, you will see that we have not been able to initially communicate what happened to you effectively. And all kinds of rumors and innuendos are flying around. And this is an example of us not being prepared. Don't you think, as somebody who has worked in international organizations, that I'm aware of the importance of public relations? That if I was preparing for something, if I had a plan, I would also not have a media plan ready for it. So I assure you, there was no plan. I had no idea this was going to happen yesterday. Of course, we all knew that situation was getting worse, that protests were building up, but nobody, I don't think anybody in Maldives expected this to happen yesterday.